it incentivizes the moneyed interests, because say a petition even for 200 signatures is so less so in this case since it's only 200 signatures given the timeline, so easier in that sense. But then you have all of the time in there that favors the institutions that have a lot of money. So that's not the intent of the bill. It's just the reality of the underlying process. So I want to make sure that's clear why I can't support the bill at this point. I think it is a problem that we need to address, and so I do appreciate the conversation that we have here. I think we need, it's like what's the iteration? I think one of the iterations would be to close the primary and stop forcing affiliation. If somebody wants to affiliate with Party A or Party B, they should just affiliate with Party A or Party B, and not just be out in the weeds. And actually state their intent. Now, I do understand why people go unaffiliated, but unaffiliated can run their own candidate. So if you want to unaffiliate and be a non-major party, then be a non-major party, and that's fine. And I think that's a great relief valve that we can have, because I'm not opposed to George Washington's statement in his departing speech that we shouldn't have the parties. We should be looking at our constitutional issues, and we should be voting Constitution, not party. And too often, what we see and here in this room is specifically a great example, is that we see the parties just voting party instead of policy. So, and the open primary makes that happen. So the open primary, it favors money, it waters down, it takes away control of the candidates, it forces affiliation. It says it's like on our side we say, hey, we're Republicans, and then somebody else says, well, I want to have a say in what your elections are. Well, if you want to say in what our elections are, come join our process, get to know us, be part of the team. Don't just stand out in the weeds and then expect to have a voice. So the other part of the petition process that I'm not a fan of is that it is firewalled through a very partisan Secretary of State. We know that the Secretary of State should be a nonpartisan office, but with the current regime, we've seen that to the point of keeping political prisoners, the Secretary of State is a partisan office. So eliminating candidates by eliminating just enough signatures, and you see this all the time across the country with petitions that the Secretary of State will reject just enough signatures that the petition is rejected, and then after the petition is rejected, then there's the recourse and the protest, but the appeal to the rejected signatures takes longer than is allowed to get on the ballot. So it's effectively, you might win the appeal after the election, but the election is over. So again, I like a lot of what this bill is trying to do. I just can't get there because of the open primary process. I wish we could have solved some of the open primary process here by allowing the parties to take back control, but I understand that, in this case, the state has taken absolute control, and as long as the parties are dependent on the money of the state and the processes of the state, then we're at the whim of the state. That's a very bad place to be if you believe in a Republican form of government, but that's where we are because we have people that are unwilling to cut the apron strings to the nanny state.